welcome to another FaceHAMMER show.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk through the Battlescroll Galatian reinforcements, as that's dropped today finally, despite the internet
Kind
asking.
of felt, yeah, kind of felt like it's just like I thought it was going to be a thing, and then like it's here. It's made some changes as well, hasn't it? Like this isn't a nothing update at all by any means.
No, the battle scrolls tend to be quite significant in impact with a small amount of rules.
Mhm.
Some of it was telegraphed because it was in the FAQ for the handbook, like the purple sun change.
Yep.
But there's some points adjustments here which are pretty big
Yeah.
for certain armies, which will really impact the meta. I do actually quite like what they do with battle scrolls, and I like the fact it's summarized in one place. Um, we're going to go through it. You'll notice that we have content creator plastered over it, and that's because the community team guys sent us an early PDF so we could record before the official drop. So yeah, thank you very much for that. That's
Yeah.
really
Hopefully, this
helpful.
is a sign of things coming sooner in the future because it makes it way easier to get proper
Yeah,
content out in time for things and lets us plan more easily.
it
Maybe
might.
the watermark could be a bit more subtle.
Yeah, it might be a little bit unclear for you guys. Hopefully, it's not. It doesn't impact you too much that you can actually still read it.
We'll be reading everything out anyway that's relevant, won't we? So
Yeah. So basically, we'll just run through it because you just want to know what it is, right? So um, you've got the purple sun end giving form change, which was in the FAQ already. So that basically stops it auto killing models that have a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. They just take d6 plus 6 mortal wounds, which is still significant,
still
but
hefty, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
like my Maw Crusher is pretty much as worried about that as it was
yeah.
if you win the turn roll, right? Because you can capitalize on that.
And you still got the minus save, which is the big thing.
No, absolutely.
Um,
Those two in combo is still really strong. Like it's not like it's now bad or anything at all.
yeah, it has gone up 9 to 90 points as well, which does make
Good.
a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it was too easy to get in for a small sacrifice and a big potential reward, I think.
Um, so the Grand Alliance Order stuff, I'm only going to go through the magenta changes because these are ones that are already there from the earlier battle scroll, I believe. It's difficult for me because sometimes I've seen this before and I just think it's already out, but it's not out.
The color
So
change is super useful. Thank you
yeah.
guys.
So you've got the Beast of Chaos Primal Raw Monstrous Rampages change, so it only gives you 1 core point, not D3, I think is the change. So it just reduces their summoning a little bit.
That's gonna completely balance them out, isn't it?
Well, the points adjustments does quite a bit, I think, which is
Let's see.
the big one.
What are people not getting 211 wounds anymore?
Probably just 200 now. So
Okay. Helpful. Cheers, guys.
uh,
Wonderful.
so big changes for destruction for Kruelboyz. So the Swamp Caller, Shaman, and Potgrot now, there used to be a choice whether you use the poisons or you cast a spell. Now you do both.
Great.
So, which is
Cool.
what it probably should have always been.
Yep.
And that's nice. Obviously, Grinning Blade changes are quite big as well, which were already out there, I believe. And the Gut Ripper unit, you could have a Hobgoblin Slitter as battle line. So I think Grinning Blades is probably now you go to because you're not visible unless they're within 12. That means your shooting now can be effective and not shot off before you get to shoot. So I think Grinning Blades is very good, particularly with the battle line changes. You probably find less people will take big yellows now, and more people will take Grinning Blades. They've made another change, which is a Ragnarok spiders with the war party are now battle line. If you've got a Spider Fang general, sure, whatever. I don't think it makes any difference, but
No, I mean, bring on more beautiful looking armies, but I don't think that's going to be enough to win the game or break anything.
I think Gloomspite just need a new book,
They
right?
need
I
a
mean,
book.
like it's
Yeah.
like, now some interesting points adjustments here, particularly,
I mean, quite a lot of them.
a lot of drops. So you've got some Cities of Sigmar stuff. I don't think that really matters. Seraphon, there's more increases. Skink Priest has now gone up 30 points, so he's now 120 from his 80-point original. So
He's gone up 30 points on the last time he went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Engine of Gods has gone up, Croak's gone up, Astrolof's gone up, Starmaster's gone up. The Carnosaurs come down, the Troglodons come down. So
Carnosaur's a bargain. Like
yeah,
there are some good items in that book. He is not a bad unit. He's not like optimal, but like he was fine anyway and
yeah.
featured in strong lists anyway. I'm curious why that's been done. So you know, if people want to go dinosaur rampage, there's a list out there.
I believe all these are driven through stats where they look at uptake, who takes what, how many competitive lists have them, you know, that finish with so much win rate and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's actually a structure to it. Don't ask me what it is. I don't know. But
I can guess how you'd arrive at that conclusion, which is min-maxing stuff that does a certain damage in a certain way. That doesn't mean that he was bad by any means at all, does it? He's great for 250. He's insane for 250, I would say.
Massive drops on Stormcast. So Vanquishers have gone down 15, Aventus down 40, Relictor down 20, Indrasta down 40, Kazrai and Chondrus down 50, Annihilators down 20, Praetors down 20, and Vigilers down 25.
That's like, well, we'll see, but that feels like the army that has had the most that will matter, I would say. That is a big deal.
I think the biggest impact in this adjustment, honestly, are Beasts, Head Knights, Maggotkin, and Oryx. But I'll get into that. And Ossiarch Bone Reapers actually are probably amazing now. So yeah, I don't know if you'll still see many of those. There are some Annihilator lists you see around. Obviously, Knight Relictor is very popular. I don't personally.
Should we pause on the big dragons? Like, they're still an insane amount of points, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is better than the other, so it feels weird that they're the same amount of points.
Yeah, I've always thought that Chondrus was the best one.
By far, incredible
because he's a wizard
spells.
and stuff.
Yeah,
but then, most people seem to take Karazai, and I don't know if that's just because it's a hobby choice and people like combat who are more into hobby. I don't know.
The one with the jewelry on does look dorky as well. Like,
that's probably, I would build. Yeah,
I would, and it's cool and gnarly and scarred. The other one, literally, like I would use something painted the color of Krondis, but the model of Karazai for sure. Maybe with like the gold bits.
Just build a bit of halfway, and you could use it as both, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm no stranger to that. Is this going to make a difference? Like, people have been trying out annihilators. Like, I haven't seen either of the big dragons in an army yet.
So there's one at FACEHAMMER.
Fair. Yeah. Like, are they gonna? Is this enough to make them feature? I feel like the infantry changes and the characters are. I feel like maybe, that's not going to change anything with the dragons.
You might see Vanquishers. It's hard, because the problem with Stormcast is there's so many good units in the same bracket with the same points.
Yeah. And I think is impenetrably 80 scrolls wide, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the book is quite bad. Like, you ended up getting a couple competitive lists, but this always felt like they've had one abusive thing. Like, you had Vanguard Wing, take it away, or you had this, take
Landing
it away,
combat, move your dragons,
or you had dragons
times,
take it away, or
have,
Sequitors
with a 1-up save.
You had the long strikes, shooting twice, take it away. Yeah. It's like they, every time they get something and Stormcast players get excited, they almost they go, oh, that's a bit too much excitement, let's put it back a bit, and then it pulls it back too far. And I think
you'd like the median level to be raised.
Yeah.
Like the bottom pull. I mean, this is the idea of this type of update, isn't it? Which is clearly the intent of points changes like this. I think a lot that nothing's gone up.
I think fundamentally it's just a rules issue. Like, they're just not very exciting. Like,
elite armies are hard to get right?
Yeah, they don't have any special rules. They're all very basic stuff on the scrolls. I don't know,
and they're quite hard to play as well.
Yes.
I do not think Stormcast is a forgiving army to play whatsoever. Not one bit.
They're not survivable enough. That's the problem. Fundamentally, they need a 5-up ward save across the board, right? To feel elite. Because they don't feel elite.
I think the people who play them well take all the little nuances and add them up, and they factor them in, but it's stuff that people don't care about, like the damage on death that doesn't that doesn't matter if you're not playing really well. That's just
we'll get told off for saying that's actually a thing that actually does anything in the game.
Yeah, we will. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's an entire show on the Stormcast changes, I think, because it could change some stuff.
I think as well, like, and I think you touched on it when you said that Stormcast are like difficult to master, and like if you deep dive into the book and try and unlock the formula, because it's so wide in choice, it's even harder to know where to look.
I think you have to start by like literally tearing 2/3 of the scrolls out so you can concentrate on the 1/3 that are going to be considered, because there is some absolute crap in there.
Yeah, but then
completely
sometimes they're
pointless.
not crap, they're just, they need other things to work, and they're not, it depends on the meta, and you're not.
Convince me on
And
a
you-
Herald or Russ a day.
I'm going to convince you about what was the ones that I said were really good, the Vanguard guys that like, and then Jack used to give me so much crap for that. So I think I wrote an article and I said, "Oh, you could take these guys." He's like, "What are you talking about? You never take them." I was like, "Yeah, but, you know, you could take them." And that's this, you know.
Well, let us know,
Take
guys,
anything.
if you want to see us attempting to take the changes and see if it has changed Stormcast lists and how much of a difference it makes, do let us know.
I think there's even like a mental load just understanding what those units are. Like,
they all sound the same.
Because I'm like looking at
a,
going, which of the
sounds
vanquishers?
like a Diablo Paladin, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Sanctuary, Vanquish.
Because the Praetors, they're like the guard guys you get in the box set. The Vigilers are the guys with the bows. I think the Vanquishers are the guys with the double-handed swords.
That they have a long thing, I think.
They have a long thing. They're the Thunderstrike guys. See, I'm gonna have to actually look, because like
Injustice feels good.
Yeah, but is she like
taken alone? I think stout objectively, yes, but that doesn't help.
Yeah,
her in the book necessarily. Like that amount of wounds, that amount of resilience, she feels indestructible to play against, and for her to drop, like
I do like what she does in terms of the healing, and actually, like, Vanquishers are the guys with the swords. Now, we spoke about these with the Glacian veterans, them actually being really good now.
Yeah.
So the fact they've come down, you might see a Vanquisher list. Like,
these are not like little delicate, pathetic, pointless changes. Like, you're gonna get a unit and a half out of this in an army, which is not to be sniffed at.
You've got loads in stock as well, Byron. I'm just letting people know. Click
Okay.
through the affiliate link in the
Not
below
like
and
teams.
help us out. Don't get me started.
Sorry, Raz.
New release.
No seats
Can
in
you
the
buy
world.
any of it? No.
No, new book, no models. Let's go.
I mean, literally, the website is awful. Anyway, that's a different topic. I'm not going to talk about my feelings on Games Workshop stock and release schedule, because I think they need to have a long, hard think about what they're doing. So, Beasts of Chaos, Cockatrice and Dragon Ogre's gone up.
This is going to make one tiny little piece of difference.
It will make a difference, because
only if you're spamming that.
Yeah, but there is a list that is that, right?
I know,
there is
but
that
like,
list. So
I don't think the power level of the book is going down in accordance to this.
I think it will go down a little bit, but I think the biggest change is the summoning point generation, honestly. But I've seen a list which is literally like, if you've gone up 20 points per Dragon Ogre scroll, and they've probably got like 8 of those scrolls.
Like it's about 7, yeah. So you end up with 1 unit less.
And then the Cockatrices, I've seen a list with like 4 or 5 of them in it. So then that's another. So you're losing 200 points in the army, which I know it sounds, you can't go too hard on the points, because otherwise the army just becomes trash. It's like that. It's like the balance. It goes like, it's really amazing, then you change the points and it just goes like that. It's just like, you can't.
I get that, but like people can barely fit the amount of units they have in their deployment zone. Like, it's not like, and the number of wounds in an average army, which is like 90 to 120.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
They're 210, dropping it down to like 1 unit less, or maybe taking something else instead of that 1 unit. Or
they're
whatever.
the new Legions of Nagash with the 90 Grimghast, aren't they? That's what it is.
They are, yeah. That's a very good. That's a very apt comparison.
Now, this one I'm excited for. If I could be bothered to paint any of these or build the army,
dude, if my enthusiasm hadn't died 10 years ago, yeah, I'd be. Excited.
Fiend Bloods now they're almost giving them away.
I mean, the scroll need. Yeah.
Demonettes, Glutos, Fiends, and the Fiend Bloods have all dropped, and that's 20, 30, 20, 20. I mean, that's a lot. Glutos, I still think is great. Demonettes, actually, I think are solid.
Yeah, they're a good
particularly
unit.
with
what
veterans.
Were they?
Well, they're 130. So
but they weren't any more than that before that, were they?
I think they were 145 at some point.
Yeah.
I can't remember. They go all up and down. No, honestly, I don't think competitive Slaanesh lists use those units except maybe Glutos. The
Yeah.
twin blades and twin soul changes and the bliss barbs in the previous handbook update were huge. I just don't think
Yeah.
you've seen people play with them yet. I've played a test game with 3 units of bliss barbs and a couple units of painbringers, Sinessa Keeper. It was solid, really good. I beat a big war army fairly comfortably. I just think people just aren't going to invest and paint, and the actual play of them is hard.
Well, they've got the opposite problem to Stormcast in that you're trying to write a glass cannon army that feels okay, and
Mhm.
glass cannon armies feel overpowered or under resilience, depending on what you match up against. So if you match up against someone who has less drops than you and can shoot really effectively, your game might just be over. That's kind of hard to balance with Slaanesh, which is why they needed these points and this help like 3.5 years ago.
And I,
Um,
I think that's the big issue. Like, if they'd done these changes early, people would have adopted the army and painted the
and they would have had
models,
relevant
and they
data
would have
for a
had.
much longer time.
Yeah, and this is the issue I've got with the approach. If they,
It's got to be more assertive, right?
yeah, and I think you've got to sometimes take that. We know what we're talking about. We're going to do it because we know this is going to happen, rather than
We
wait and
think this is a
see.
good idea.
Yeah,
This has
and
been ran around enough people. We are going to do it. Like, do it now.
it needs
Or
to.
if the entire
Yeah,
world thinks it's a good idea, do it three
it's a
years ago. My
it's
God.
a bit like the Luminef Fox changes. It always should have been move in only in your turn.
Yep.
It could have been FAQ'd like 4 times, didn't get FAQ'd. They released a new book, it's gone. It's like, well, why you knew you were going to do it? Why don't you just do it? Like, it's.
I mean, it's Russ and I chatted about this a little bit before recording. Actually, like a big part of this hobby is people getting on something on release, being incredibly excited about it, and that might be people who are incredible players, people who are hobby players, people who just want it to look cool, people who want it to absolutely smash face and win in the right manner, but win with the latest cool thing, whatever it is. And if you don't make the most of that time period, you kind of just like wallow off. Like, who is left playing Slaanesh now? Like, you've got Bill Souza, smashing face like an absolute wad, which he's done for like years, and a few other notable solid players. But anyone else who is trying it has, withered and died, or you've still got a few hobby heroes continuing with it. So you're missing out on a really, really valuable period where you're going to collect, like potentially 90% of your data on it. Even good armies like Maggotkin of Nurgle have kind of petered off now. They didn't get any worse.
Well,
Foreshadowing.
we're going to get into
Yep.
that in a minute.
They didn't get any worse, but they're just not the latest thing anymore. So people are playing them less.
I still think Maggot King are like the thing about Maggot King, and like you touched on it, they were good before, right? So that when
Yeah.
they come out originally, they were good, they were
Yeah.
competitive, so people owned the models. So when they re-release it, people have already got it, and it's a small investment to get it on the table.
Pay out
Whereas if you've
500
never
points.
owned an army,
Yeah,
it's £500+, and I don't even want to count the hours of getting
and
it
it's
ready.
not in stock.
And you can't get it most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you wanted to collect Zinch now, you've got to go to eBay because like,
Yeah.
you can't get
Yeah,
anything.
Facebook groups.
It's ridiculous.
Like your buddies.
Well,
Yeah,
I
and
bought
then-
an army off someone because I just couldn't get any of the
And you
stuff.
would have bought it new, right? You would have
Yeah.
bought it and built it yourself to your standards. Yeah.
And it effectively it's lost you money in a way because I would have bought an element and then it wasn't there, so and you couldn't get it. So I was like, well, and then I found someone who was selling an entire collection.
Yeah.
And I bought the whole lot. And I just
And you end up with surplus, and then you
I've
sell it
got
on.
so much, and I sell that on. So it's like, well, why? I don't really want to mess around with secondhand models, but I ain't got much choice. If you can't buy them brand new.
And then, the time that they're out of stock matters a lot as well.
And then what you're going to end up doing is having people who are foreshadowing releases and buying stock up to sell it on eBay when it's out of stock at GW.
Or they're just buying, they're just sitting on it for just in cases for themselves or whatever. I think people's enthusiasm dwindles pretty fast in this hobby as well. Like
Massive.
The reason that element ships fast is so that we can all behave like children, have a great idea on Thursday, and then build it on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you don't want to order it and then it's out of stock. You wait a week and then you've changed your mind.
3.5 weeks of
and reality sets in and you go, no, actually, I cancel the order.
Exactly.
Whereas
there's a new shiny thing over there.
Exactly. Oh, shiny. Anyway, so Head Knights changes, don't think they're a big impact to the army, honestly.
I mean, you can, like, Slangor Fiendbloods is like trying to fix Gloomspite, get to the points, like, it's just, it doesn't matter.
You might as well give them away, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
now,
Fleet Master.
This one, is a massive change, and that's the Maggotkin of Nurgle.
I'm down with this. I'm
I
really down with
I'm
this.
really not.
Okay,
I
let's
I
go.
So Lord of Afflictions was already overpriced. He's going up 20 points. I know he's in every list, but it's because of what he does, right?
It's because of what he can wear as
Blowab
well.
or Guts, I've got no issue with those going up because the Maggot Lords were pretty undercosted. Pascal Blight Lords going up 30 points is ridiculous to me.
I feel like you rules change that.
I don't think they need a rules change. I just think you need to make Blight Kings cheaper, because the reason you see Blight Lords is because they're the only that does anything. Like, you look at all the other units and you think, what actually does any damage in combat? What does mortal wounds? You've got beasts and you've got Pascals, right? And it's like, what, I just think you just kill the army with that. Like, what do you take now? Drones. So now everyone's going to take drones. Then what do they do next update? Put drones up? And then they just stop playing Nurgle, right? I mean, what else are you going to take?
I'm down with the Lords changing. I think it's weird that the other one didn't, because they're just, I know they all do different things, but if you look at them for what they do for their points, they work out so much better than a Great Unclean one.
I think the problem is that Morbidix is the one you don't take, because you don't take free very rarely. You'll take
because
all
you've run out of
three.
points. It's not because he's not great.
Not because he's not good, but because Blowab's the wizard with the spell, with the debuff,
Yep.
with the spell that does more wounds every phase.
All singing, all dancing.
Orguts
hero,
is the command point, and he's a war master. So you're like, okay, well that gives me and he's better in combat. So you go, well, those are the two. But actually, Morbidix is great.
He's absolutely great. I don't like. He's worryingly good for his points. The Great Unclean one comparison, like you spend 100 points more and you get like twice as much table presence. And with the way that healing works in Nurgle, I know he heals really well, but you get to heal in different places and stuff like that. Like, they needed to go up. It feels really weird that
they needed to go up. I 100% agree. They needed to go up. Pascal Blight does up by 30 points a unit. That's just way too much.
I would have gone 15 on the unit and not raised the single.
Yeah, it's too heavy. Like, it's
It
way
is.
too heavy. Even like 20 points and 10 points would have been a lot, but 30 and 15, like, really?
This feels like the issue with blindly using data. Like, the Maggoth Lords needed to change. Like, I've wanted them to change by about that amount as well, like 20 to 30 somewhere.
Yeah.
Since they came out, they're just too efficient by a really, really long way. But it feels like this is misuse of data for the rest of it. Like, it's easy for someone to think, I'll just take the same unit 7 times because it's easy. Like, spamming witch elves or whatever is no new thing in Warhammer. Net listing ends up being this self-fulfilling prophecy where it just goes round and round in a circle because people buy it because it's a cool idea and they like the theme of it and they've seen someone doing well with it, and then you just rinse repeat. People aren't massively imaginative. The Nurgle book's wide open. People like Gabe have taken extremely weird lists and done extremely well with them. So yeah, the Lord of Afflictions, part of his points value is what he can wear with his command. Right?
I get that.
He's the most. I'm not saying it should go up. I'm saying, like, there is other people who. So you're comping his items, not his scroll, which feels like a problem as well, right? Like, you're comping his command ability.
I just think you're taking him because he unlocks the battle line, and he's got the deep strike, which gets around your movement limitations. But honestly, you don't take one in the army. He goes up 20 points. You just swallow that. But the problem with the Blight Lords is, if you had the list, which is like Lord of Afflictions, Blowab, Orguts, all Pasquils, your army's gone up like 400 points. And, like, is it 400 points better than everything else in the game? It's not. I know it's done well, but it's done well in the hands of people like Jack Armstrong. And you're like, well, you're going to do well whatever you give them. You know what I mean? Like, do you really need to comp this out the game? Is it dominating? I mean, where's the Fire Slayer changes? Like, the Maggot Lords are, Magmadroth lists are smashing people up. And then the problem is they're not going to get adjusted for 6 months. So then if they adjust them like this, they're just going to put them in the bin.
I mean, it's also right. Like, look what was strong before or during the landing of the new Nurgle, and then look at what the flies list does. It's a really good counter to these, right? It's a good counter to other things that were popular. So it's going to get taken more because it's strong in the current meta. That doesn't mean, in the grand scheme of things, like, there's certain armies it just is not anywhere near as good at. Like, people are going to take it in team events because it's really good against the current hotness. That doesn't mean that on average in the game it's as extreme as people think it is. I don't think. I'm really down with 50% of these changes.
Because when I
Um,
played against Nurgle, if I see someone with like the all spam fly list, I don't go, "Oh my god." I go,
No.
"That's fine." I don't. The lists that I dread are the ones that are
Balance.
balanced.
Oh, it's
Like,
horrible. Balance no. If someone wants to turn up with like 30 plague bearers and some tech around that at the
mm,
moment, I would be pooping myself in the current edition of the game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyway. I strongly disagree with the Pascal Blightlord changes and the Lord of Affliction changes. You could put Lord of Afflictions up. Don't think it makes a huge difference because you don't take more than one in your army. Pascal Blightlord's got up 30 points and no reductions anywhere else. Like, you don't see reductions on things like Gut Rot
Raising them.
Spume, Harbingers, what's the Lord of Rot, whatever he's called, go on foot
Because
with
the
the
second
axe, you
half
never
of the
see him.
book may as well just read like Flies and
All,
Flies Man, right?
all the mortal heroes are just overcosted. Like, even I'd say, argue the Lord of Affliction's overcosted, and some of them are unique, so you don't take them, and your points are so tight anyway. And now you're suddenly like, and do you know what you end up
Up
doing?
items on them. Yeah.
You're just going to run drones, normal drones.
Well, I feel you're pushing people. If you comp these hard, I call it comping. If you raise their points hard, and you don't fix the other stuff, you're trying to fix a lack of diversity in the game by presenting another lack of diversity in the game. People are
Yeah.
just going to spam something else. Beasts. Oh, I'll replace these. I'll change the riders and call them flies.
And what you
of a
want to
different
do
type.
is give some reductions on things like Blight Kings and Gut Rot. So if you had a balanced list already, where you had a unit of, say you had quite a themed list, and you had a mortal list, and you had some Blight Kings, you had Gut Rot Spume, you had a Lord of Afflictions, you had like one of the Maggot Lords, maybe the Glotkin, couple, and a unit of Puscoils. Your list goes up, but nothing comes down. So like your list doesn't work anymore. Whereas, actually, is there anything wrong with a balanced list like that? No. So you should give them reductions on the other units that you don't see very often. This is all increase, and for me, that's a big problem. And I know Maggotkin might have a good win rate, but the internal balance, people aren't taking a lot of those war scrolls, so make them more attractive. And
the second half of the book doesn't really get read, does it? Beyond 2 to 3 scrolls.
And do you want to sell those models? I mean, like, I would love to run Blight Kings, but they're just, even with the Galatian veteran changes, they're a bit more attractive, but still, they're not as efficient.
And we shouldn't be basing it on that, because how long is that going to be?
Because when that's going to go away, and then you're like, am I going to invest time, effort, and energy on painting and buying? And I think as well, like, Puscoils are great models, and people have been waiting since the end times to use these models because they've been trash since the end times. Same with the Maggot Lords. I took Bloab to Blood and Glory in the end times. He was on a square base, that I had mine on a square base, and he was a renegade choice. No one was really running them, unless it was like a hobby army, and like, to then like increase them, and I'm thinking, you're just saying don't play these, please. Basically, I just don't. I think it's bad. I don't agree.
What points would you have picked for those 3 units then? Out of
what,
curiosity,
the Pascal Blight Lords,
or Pascal Blight Lords, single, double, and the LOA. What would you have done?
LOA, I would have left. I would have actually made him 200 points.
I've always thought he's expensive.
I would have Pascal Blight Lords. I would have put them up to probably, what were they before? 210, right? No, 220. 220.
I think they're 220.
Yeah, they were 220, and he was 110, right? So I would have like put them up maybe 10 points, maybe 20 at an outside. But what I would have done is I would have dropped Blight Kings to 200 points.
Yeah,
like, you drop Blight Kings to 200 points, and that's a 50-point decrease.
Make the decision slightly closer.
You're suddenly then going, do I take them or do I take them? Because you acknowledge that Blight Lords are better than Blight Kings.
A Blight King's battle line. Full stop, or are they battle line if?
Battle line.
Yeah. So and then what you do is people aren't pushed towards the Lord of Afflictions as much because people are taking other battle line without something that has to make them battle line. Yeah.
I just think, and if you said to me now, what's better, 5 Blight Kings or 2 Pascal Blight Lords? I still think you say Blight Lords are better.
Yeah.
So why are they the same points?
Well, one of them is really slow and has nice models,
and the other one can deep strike and moves fast and has nice models. So, and they just put less.
And a shooting attack. Yeah.
They don't shoot, do they? The Puscoils, they just do impact hits on the charge, right?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. More damage and more phases. Okay, then. Contentious Nurgle section.
Skaven.
Ooh.
Lots of drops of stuff you don't see.
Well,
Corruptor,
why
Renegade.
is that going down?
Just don't know.
That's really it's. No one is worried about how useful that model is in armies.
I still think the Corruptor's awesome.
Oh yeah. No, I'm saying like it seems weird
Mm.
that he somehow
But
got featured as.
but what does
leader
10
mode
points
option.
adjustment do? Nothing.
No, well, as a percentage, that's absolutely useless, isn't it?
It's
So
nothing. Like it
not worth
doesn't mean
talking
anything.
about and not worth doing
No,
either. I
the
would
Death
say.
Master down 20. I agree. They're well overcosted.
Yes. Yeah, they are way too much.
Royal Terrorgeist Royal Zombie Dragon drops 20 points. I mean, sure.
It's a bit. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, Feck need help.
now
Hello.
this one, right? This is madness. Okay. This change, honestly, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Crawlers down 15, Harvester down 15, Immortus Guard down 25, Archive down 25, Harbingers down 20, and Stalkers down 10.
Just most of the bulk of the book, right?
Well, all the elite stuff. So you've already seen a Stalker list do really well. They've just now dropped again. Luckily they are the most expensive elite unit, which makes sense because they're the best one.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think this is like too much, but I think this actually means the Ossiarch Bone Reaper players, it opens up so many lists. Like, obviously, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a very big force multiplier. The only thing I think's missing off this list is a drop to Kavalos Death Riders, because at 190 points, and this is the irony of this, is a lot of these points increases are just the AOS 3 updates. So when AOS 3 come out and they put all the new points in, they pushed all the Ossiarch Bone Reaper units up, and now they've just dropped to pre-AOS 2 levels. And you're like, you could have just not bothered. Like, just leave it alone. And you know, I always thought that their increases were weird, because they never got the benefit of any of the new stuff in the game. So like you had like monstrous rampages and that, which they can benefit from, but a lot of the heroic actions didn't do anything. All the command abilities didn't affect them.
They're in a time period of incredibly powerful inventory that they happened to outgrind as well, weren't they? They were like that period was when Fire Slayers were the hotness and Witch Elfie Doc were the hotness.
And I argue they didn't do that well.
And OBR were like, I think they looked better at the time than they were because they happened to be good against, again, things that were powerful in the current meta.
I mean, do you remember seeing people winning events with them? I can't remember.
No, they just did. They did
all right.
All right. Yeah.
But I could tell lots of events where Daughters of Cain were on a podium, or
absolutely,
Legion of Nagash on a podium. You know, so I can't rember. OBR.
I'm just saying that, like at that period, I think they
felt
fought
strong.
They fought above their level. They punched, they punched higher than their level.
They were good in that meta as well.
Yes, exactly.
Like, they're very good against those armies. Like,
yeah.
I find like Daughters of Cain are quite an easy army for me to play against because you know. But more tech crawlers and harvesters and all those drops, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited to see some more OBR lists come out. The
fact that feel a bit still more weird about what's going to change in a few months, though, right? Going to build this elite army with.
Yeah, but I think as long as you don't spam Stalker battle line,
yeah,
because you need the Galatian veterans.
Go balanced, guys.
Like,
of this entire show.
I think the Harbingers and Archive are great. You know, they do have a place. They just never really find a spot. Crawlers dropping down to 200. They're actually quite viable now, I think, particularly with the fact you can use with preferences stuff like Beastman and things like that. Using the Bone type Shrieker, you can't unbind it, then split firing across their units and causing those a battle shock is actually quite effective. So, yeah,
and you don't have many other ways to reach out and touch your opponent with that army anyway. So,
no, and then the biggest issue is you just don't have the points for it because at 215 it felt eye-wateringly expensive. So,
well, it dropping is a thing, but also everything else dropping is a thing.
That's the big
maybe
thing.
You get one of those in for free.
The biggest impact is the battle line. So you can make one unit of Stalker's battle line, which allows you then to, or a Mortis Guard, I think, which allows you then to like not pay for the eye-wateringly expensive cavalry, because 190 points for the cav is just ridiculous.
It's a lot, but again, they can reach something faster than other stuff. I always like one unit in OBR. Not that you feel good about it.
Soulblight drops.
Yeah.
Ironically, they seem to be podiuming a lot or doing well at the moment. And they've got drops, so I know there are probably units you don't see, but the White King on
Yeah,
Steed is
so-
in all my lists.
yeah.
Terror Guy, Zombie Dragon, whatever. But
The unridden ones, just to clarify for
Nefrata going
peeps.
down 20.
I mean,
Interesting.
she's definitely the least taken of them. So I can see that. I've actually forgotten how she feels in the game. I've not seen her for so long. So
It's true. You might see a resurgence. Sorry. Now we've got Gloomspite.
all green, thematic. Without being facetious, is any of this going to matter? Like
I don't think so.
We've tried putting, just to give some groundings to that. We've tried giving people more points at events specifically with these armies, and it's just more stuff that dies quite fast and needs help, as in new book help, not less points help. So
Yeah, and the
we
problem
have tried this out.
They're not even the units that you see. Like you see Squigglis and you see Troglis. There you can say the Mangler's gone down. The Loom boss on Mangler's gone down. The Trog boss has gone down. But honestly, I don't
think Gloomspite getting another unit out of points changes is going to help them. It's good that it is being done, but they just need a new book.
Yeah.
Things
Now,
that might make a difference.
or War
in green.
Clans.
Yeah, let's go.
Beast Skewer Kruelboyz down 20 points. Gut Rippers down 20 points. Killer or Boss on Great Nash Chief down 20 points. Gobsprat down 20. Corpse Rooker Volker down 20. The Sludge Raker down 25. Scumdrek down 30. That's to kill. I know there's other changes that are red, but the green changes. All Kruelboyz. I think with the Grinning Blades change, with the battle line change, with the pot grot change, I think they could now be viable as an army. Particularly with the change for Grinning Blades. I think Grinning Blades, Kruelboyz, yes, you're going to see it. Gut Rippers down to 160. I've been saying it since release. They should be 160, finally. Yeah. The Sludge Rakers in every list, 25-point drop there. I mean, it's just, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but the Kruelboyz going down 20. You're
not being taxed for stuff that you have to take, or maybe you feel like you have to take. It sounds a bit ungrateful to say it, but this is all stuff that was pretty much exactly the 20 points across the board was voiced a lot from a lot of different sources from release, isn't it? So good that
they were just over-egged. I think the ability to do mortals on a 6 to hit was just massively overcosted into the units.
Been in the game before, right?
Yeah.
It's not new. It's not like you weren't lacking in other instances of that over the last 5 years. So yeah. Stabbers going up, Four-Way Maniacs going up, and Wargod Prophet going up. He was very good for his point, so I can see that. I don't think it's going to change anything massively. Again, it's easy to spam the same unit, and it's kind of a cool theme. So the big stapper lists, they did do well and can do well, but I wonder if that's kind of like the flies.
Well, again, it's like it falls into the same category. What
help
in
the other stuff?
What in the Savage Orc book does anything? The Wargog Prophet Mask, big stabbers, and maybe the Ball Boys. So you spam them because nothing else does anything.
Everything else is pap. So it's comparative, right? Like I would hazard a guess that there is a very small amount of people in the world going out there taking, pure Savage Orc lists.
Exactly. I mean, we even had the discussion, like playtest wise, they just didn't have any data. I was like, well, how do you make changes with no data? Like, you can't. If that's what your basis is, and then like, what do you do? Like,
it's probably the worst update of a book that has come out in AOS. I feel like they got their movement taken away. They got the interesting complexities and the rules taken away. They were vanillaized to an ungodly level. And as a result, people are, they don't have endless spells or stuff like that. A lot of stuff that looks like the army's been given love didn't or hasn't happened. And of course, people are just pushed into this corner where you've got the way to make them fun for the die-hard fans is to wave your mask at people, let's punish that, and to take the unit that does some type of reliable damage, which involves it dying, right? And I think they lost run and charge as well.
I think so. I can't remember. They lost something that made them.
Rules were taken from every scroll, and there was no reason. if it was an attempt to make the army more simple to play, great, but they're fairly simple anyway. You know,
It's all our fault for the Cunning Ruck review show we did, and then it went off and won the first Warhammer World event, and then I remember playing Sedge, and he said, "Oh, I've been listening to your show on repeat," and that's and then I ended up getting like 120 yellow dice rolled at me for 3 hours. It felt like 3 hours anyway.
Interesting times, yeah. I mean, we just read the rules out, didn't we?
Well,
but yeah, if
we did write a list on the show and give our thoughts, but yeah, it's
gonna let people do maths.
Found a loophole.
Yeah, if you're gonna let people do maths, they're gonna do maths. But yeah, that's not the way to help that book out. And you could have helped the book out with points in other ways that for the die-hard fans would have been really welcome, I think. Like that's just kicking people who have already got a very restricted selection if they do want to hold on to that book.
Yeah, and I guess it's the same issue. Lack of units, lack of
They don't have movement spells. You used to have to win. If you weren't doing spamming shooting, you used to have to win with an incredibly technical game where you put stuff in the right place and died as slowly as possible and buffed your save 2 or 3 ways. Like every single movement spell or ability was pulled out of that book for no good reason that I can understand. It wasn't like they were OP. Like, yeah, obviously I have a bit of an axe to grind with this one because I played it and I wanted it to be more interesting than it was for about a year and a half.
But they just took away all the stuff that was busted, but gave them nothing really.
Well, they took away the one thing that was busted, and then all the other stuff that kind of supported that, which now didn't matter because the busted thing wasn't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on.
Kronstein Incarnate of Gur plus 80.
Yeah, sure.
Good. Should be more points. Should put another 100 on that.
I mean, it can still go in any list, can't it?
Yeah,
so it's not like the points change stops it from being an ally or anything. So
you still take it.
Yeah, of course you still take it.
Like, it's still better than an mercenary gargant, right? So we're not going to take, it's cheaper as well. Cogs up 30.
Yeah, sensible.
Launching up 20. Purple shot up 20. Spell portal up 10.
I mean, I don't think that spell portal change is like.
I don't see the point of that. It does the same thing. It's always been 70 points. Why put it up 10 points?
Still worth it for everyone. It'd be worth it if it was 90. Like, the armies that want it.
I think I would rather have seen a rule change for launching. Like, just say you can't basically. And the issue with launching is Fanquil, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
So you just FAQ that or change that because nothing else cares. Nobody else cares. So it's one model that uses it that you care about, and there might be one other. Someone could tell me.
You're like, you're treating the symptoms rather than the cause there, aren't you?
Yeah. The issue is warp fire projectors on Fanquil, teleporting, moving, and then doing his thing.
Using like 14 out of 15 bow snakes as an example on average or something.
Just
like
put
that.
his points up or something, or change FAQ the warp projectors on him. Like if it was basically on a 4 up, then it went to 3 up, 2 up, then like you wouldn't care, would you? Like if it's 1 dice per model rather than 4 dice a model on a 3 up, basically. So you're rolling, you're basically guaranteed to wipe a unit out. It's just like, it seems silly, but
seems interesting that Thanquol, like if data is being used, I haven't seen lists without Thanquol.
Yeah,
I think like every Skaven list at FACEHAMMER had Thanquol, maybe one.
I mean, Thanquol launching it'll be in pretty much because Skaven's a jank army anyway, right? It's all about just doing jank with mortal wounds.
It's like I've got this 3-thing sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, sure, some of the changes. I don't know. I don't know if an endless spell going up 10, 20 points makes any difference.
Not if people want it. If
some armies it will, some armies it won't. So
I mean, you're writing Teach list at the moment. Are you going to not take the portal now because it's changed, or are you considering it any differently?
I never take the portal.
Okay.
because there's a command trait which allows you to get 9 inches on a spell anyway. So I don't think you need it. Because the way that I think Zinch works, it's a mid. The way I'm playing mine, it's soak, anvil soak at mid range damage. It's not long range damage. It doesn't need that. The tables aren't big enough. You need like 35-inch threat with a spell. Just wait a turn. It's fine.
I guess you see it more with tech list, don't you, for the single spells?
Yeah, because you want to burst it in their army, and all that stuff. But I'm sure that spell portal. I mean, the one model I think that spell portal is great on is Nagash. But Nagash is trash. So sorry,
Yeah, data
sorry.
wise, like how many
Like
that seems like an what?
I,
When have you seen Nagash at an event recently? Have you?
he's
You've
just
been to more than
shite.
I have.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's just shite. I mean, he's the Lord of Death, and he goes down like a well, I won't use the analogy, but he goes down like a rather cheap prostitute. So it's kind of he's just so easy to kill. He needs a ward save. He needs to have immune to instant death.
maybe
Um,
not have nearly 1,000 points or whatever it is,
and probably
900 or
doesn't.
something.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. I think he's probably the most. I use the term wankered about War Scroll in Age of Sigmar. I think if you took one War Scroll that's been changed the most or had the most versions, he's probably up there.
Him and the horrors are fighting, aren't they? And
Yeah,
the
but
horrors are still
I know horrors
definitely
have had a lot of tweaks, but they're still horrors.
yeah, they are certainly are.
Like the Gash has like fundamentally been like, is he 1,000? Is he 900? Is he this? Is he that? Does he do this? Does he do that? It's just like, oh God, leave him alone.
Keywords, blah blah blah. Yeah,
Hopefully, we'll see him come to a. With all the other gods, they've said, oh, this is what so and so is. I mean, Archeon we're
oh,
going to see in the Slaves book when we do
I'd
the
love
review.
it if
So.
they Kragnost him. You know, Kragnost feels appropriate. I think Kragnost is my
Kragnos is
favorite
awesome
god.
now, right?
Does exactly what he should do at about the right points. If you take him, it's a big deal. If you face him, it's a big deal. Consequential, you know, exactly on the money after his change. So
And I think Marathi and Ilariel feel like that too.
yes, yeah, yeah. Oh, and Ilaria feels really appropriate for the army she's in. Like the
Techless,
balance of he's always gonna be high. I mean, you probably make it slightly less NPE, don't you, with him because it just feels a bit odd.
nah, you gotta hate him. His stupid owl thing, whatever it is.
I think you, I think you lower the MP spell stuff a bit and maybe make him slightly more protectable, and then he's not just always doing exactly the same things in the same way, and either you can deal with him or you can't. But
Yeah,
it makes it hard.
It's tricky. But anyway, that's the battle scroll. So yeah, big changes. To
Big
sum up,
opinions from us. Do people have big opinions?
yeah, let us know what you think. If you agree, disagree. If you, my biggest takeaways are, I think Nurgle have been battered. I don't know if that makes any difference to Seraphon. I think you're going to see Kruelboyz armies creep in.
Yeah.
Most of the other changes, I think, a little bit inconsequential. Bone Reapers, I think it excites. If I was a Bone Reaper player, it excites me a little bit for list building. Changes to Purple Sun, sure.
Yeah.
Still good. Still taking it. It's still in my list. I'm not dropping
maybe
it.
a few other armies that you're just like quietly happy that they gain 40 or 50 points here or there, but it's not gonna change the game. I don't think on par Beasts got worse enough that it's really gonna change them that much. Like take one less cockatrice, net, fine. One less unit of Dragon Ogres. You still got more wounds than anyone else in the game.
Beast is a really weird thing because I've played against them once, I think, and like I didn't really feel like they were busted. And like, but then I've got a direct counter to their rally and a direct counter to their, and I broke their herdstone on turn 2. So
yeah,
I've got a very skewed opinion on it because
there's certain things that they're not particularly happy about seeing across the table. You know, people who can deliver a massive amount of wounds or can really outgrind them and just get into the middle and don't care and take up a load of board space.
That's why Bone Reapers with Expert Conquerors are pretty good in that, right?
Yeah, just mental, isn't it?
So yeah, I don't know. Like, I get it. I get why they'd be annoying to play against, especially if you've got elite fragile armies like Deepkin. Interesting, no changes to Deepkin.
I was just gonna say, yeah, hadn't thought until you said about them, but they're just not being seen widely
at all now, right?
I guess it depends. I don't know how. Let's say this is based on data at a single time. I don't know what that single time is. You know how far in the past it was. If it was far, like
difficult. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say that the problem is that you need data of the new handbook because the handbook is so swingy, because the handbook does so much to change Galatian veterans. So like Deepkin, if you took the data from the first 6 months of the year, I played like 7 tournaments with him. I did quite well.
Yep.
I mean, wasn't alone. There was a lot of people taking armies. They seem very balanced. They seem good. You see different lists.
Variety. Yeah.
You see a lot of Reaver spam, so you could put Reavers up. But then now in the new handbook, you just don't see Deepkin because the Galatian veteran thing means you can't take thralls because they die too easy. They were fragile before. I had to skew my entire army into making them more resilient and only last for like 1 turn, 2 turns max. And then I had to kind of do enough damage with those to win the game in that time. And if that didn't happen, I lost the game. And basically, now they just don't have the resilience at all because of bounty hunters.
No, they're pushed by their book more than some other books are. I mean, this is the issue, right? If you're going to use data in the same world that you're going to drop a massive epic to the change the game once every 6 months in amongst the context of there being an oversaturation of new releases anyway. Yeah, at the fastest rate it ever has, so people can barely keep up.
And it's not like a Magic set where it drops on a weekend and everyone's got those decks because they've bought 15 boxes and they've unwrapped all the cards and they just put it
so much more delayed.
You know, they within a week the Pro Tour they've sat in their beach house.
Well, people pre-buy cards before they're even out, don't they? You can buy a bespoke deck offline.
Yeah.
You know, when you've seen the information about the cards, not when they're even on release, and then you will get them reliably.
And your prep is like getting a packet, opening it, and going, "Oh, I can play."
I'll put them in their sleeves. Yeah.
Like that's it. Whereas
very different.
This could get in the fucking bin.
Yeah, release schedule and balance are fighting with each other at the moment. Really obviously, like they are diametrically opposed.
So that's why stuff like the dry brush contrast paint method is so popular.
Exactly.
Obviously, been pioneering that for a while, but I want to take credit for something that's been around since the Renaissance. But there you go. So be a bit internet controversial there. So
somewhat controversial anyway. I really would value people's opinions on what they think. Like, is this? Some of this feels really helpful. Some of it feels like very misaimed or like ill-targeted. I don't know. Really interested to see what players of these armies think.
Yeah, and I think you're getting into the realms of is it necessary? Like, if I was a Gloomspite player, do I give a shit? Now, I'm not a Gloomspite player, and they might be like really happy about these changes and think, oh, I've got a new list. I'm a Bone Reaper player. Those changes do affect me. So maybe it's just because I'm not in that faction, I don't feel anything about them. Is the fact a Kruelboyz and a War Hydra down 20 points if I give a shit? Now, it's almost, is it worth the ink? Do you know what I mean? Like, how much time was spent sat around deciding on these points adjustments?
Could it go in a direction?
Could it be that energy be diverted into a place that actually, like, what is this trying to achieve? I think,
or is it right idea, wrong application?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, what? I mean, obviously, by reducing things, they're trying to either increase uptake or increase competitive viability. So, is a points adjustment the right way to do it? And I know that people don't like the rules wankery. I certainly don't. But they've set a precedent of doing that. So if they do that to take the top off of stuff, why don't they do it to bring the bottom up? Because if you're doing it anyway, people are used to it. Now, personally, I don't agree with it. I don't like it but I don't know if you can get away with it because the game is that complicated that I just don't think you can release stuff without having to do these big adjustments to keep it competitively viable without comp. And that's why we've started comping FACEHAMMER, because in the past really it didn't have to. Job. Yeah, 100%. I'm not trying to make it out like it's easy.
No easy way to get it right, is there? Like, no. We tried to work out some stuff. We got some flack for it, but people had a really good time playing it, which is lovely.
But I think fundamentally, the sort of what we did is we concentrated on the win conditions and things like that, not trying to fix battle tones. Because
I don't think you can. I just think the data that is out there needs like you're an expert, you are designing your own game, you understand it more than anyone else, hopefully. I don't think you use the data from people who are subjective, who copy other people's lists and play in individual local metas.
Yeah.
And I don't think you give it its weighting. I think it's a graphic misuse of the data that you have available. Some things are really obvious, that's a great idea. But if you're the person designing your game and you can look at something and say, objectively, we've got these ways to measure war scroll, whatever it is, that's good data. Like, is this too expensive for its wounds or stuff like that? I don't think a good third of this looked to me like misuse of data collected
I
from.
wouldn't say it's misuse. It's just
misapplication.
Well, I don't know. Like, I can't speak for what goes into the formula to derive at these decisions. I don't know, so I don't want to. I don't want to say they've misused data or they're not using data correctly.
We can look at the flies though, right? Like, we're not going to be making bad assumptions from that.
No, and I think
the formula's slightly wrong. Or
I think you can. I think the problem with it is like a handbrake. You have to wait to see the impact, and I would expect the people who are designing the game to have a better grasp of the game, to not need to wait for some changes, and also to understand the impact of those changes. I personally think the Maggotkin changes are going to be too much. That's my personal opinion. I might be wrong. I think a lot of the changes in here don't do a lot. Like, they're not really making much difference. They're not going to make a unit suddenly more viable. Like, are you suddenly going to see a big uptake on executioners in cities armies? I don't know. I don't play cities. Maybe you will. I don't think so. Are you going to see a Ragnarok list suddenly springing up everywhere? No.
And OBR and Stormcast are going to be the places where this makes.
I don't think the Stormcast changes matter at all.
Really?
I don't think they make any difference. Because you're still not going to take those units over the other ones because the other ones are better.
Yeah.
You might swap one unit for one of them, but
well, I mean, that's kind of
maybe
that's making a difference, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you might see a Vanquisher list, like
not majorly, and obviously, the Kruelboyz is another one where
I think Kruelboyz you'll start seeing those lists. I think there's enough changes there, but I think the fundamental
that's rules and points.
But that's I was gonna say the biggest impact is the battle line, the shaman, and the grinning blades changes. It's got nothing. The points are helpful, but it doesn't really make a huge difference. Like, yeah, you might get an extra kill bow, which is fine and great, but I do think some of the points are just pointless. But they don't do anything. Like, I mean, like the Kronspike going up 80 points, yeah, cool. So just is fundamentally I've got issues with that model, and it's still banned at events. It's banned at Sheffield Slaughter, it's banned at Carnage events. We banned it. I know it's been banned from TTS events because it's everywhere. It's like, if something's being banned, like, there's a bigger issue than 80 points
by the community as a whole, as well. By people who don't make snap decisions.
Yeah, and I don't want to ban it. Like, I don't want to change any rules. Like, my perfect thing is there's a handbook, I do no work, I just release it, and then you get on with it. Like, I don't want to change the game.
Or exactly. Or you bring out some fresh scenarios because you're doing a slightly themed event or something.
Yeah,
or you're like, monsters are 100 points less, or something cool and simple like that. Yeah.
And I'm sure people will say, well, you don't need to change it, you could just leave it. And I go, yeah, I could, but I think I have to do what the event I want to play in. So if I don't want to play an uncomped Age of Sigmar, then I'm not going to run an uncomped Age of Sigmar event. That's fundamentally just my own. I don't know what you'd call it, moral compass, but not really morals. But
I mean, selfishly
standards.
As well. Like, if I would like other people to run events under our pack so that I could play under it, that's how I want to play the game currently.
Exactly.
I think it needs fixing.
But the battle scroll, it's interesting. It's definitely a talking point. Let us know what you think. If you're a Nurgle player, are you really upset? If you're a Gloomspite player, are you rubbing your hands together? If you play OBR, are you suddenly really excited about taking crawlers again? Will we see Bloodseeker Palanquins? I don't know. I still think they're a good unit, but you don't see them. Yeah, I think our Beasts of Chaos now broken. Are they still good? What's the feeling there? So let us know in the comments below on this controversial, opinionated show. So But yeah, it's interesting. Or are you just fed up and just can't be bothered to even try and react to
Slaanesh.
this stuff and just go, I'll just play what I
Slaanesh.
can play and I don't care anymore. Yeah.
Play balance lists, peeps. Safest thing to do.
Need some Slangor Fiendbloods? Sure, there's plenty on eBay. They've probably got lots of stock of those, right?
Hazard better not run out anyway. Yeah.
How many have you got in stock? Should we check?
Well, it depends how many we bought initially.
Yeah, how much have you sent back? Oh man. Oh, you've got in stock. You're 2 in stock. Oh, it's not quite as much as the Vanquishers, but you know, get them while they're hot, boys.
2 of them in stock with 2 inches of dust on each.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching, Pete.
Catch you all in the next one.
See you in a bit. Bye-bye.
Bye.